Welcome to Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success podcast, providing business owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs with the 3 INs: insights, inspirations, and intentional actions. Delivered through monologues and dialogues, we address topics like leadership, productivity, time management, work-life balance, and challenges like stress, conflict, mental health, and much more. Please do not hold back from suggesting specific topics and guests you would like on this podcast. Greetings and welcome to this episode of Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success. Today I want to dive into the topic of mental health. And of course, we're going to look at that in relation to mental fitness. Have they got anything to do with each other? Are they the same thing? Are they something completely different? Are they related in any possible way? That's what we're looking at today. Now, before diving into that, I want to just talk just very briefly about mental health, just from the point of view of you understanding what I mean by that. So what I mean by mental health is not right or wrong. It is just my opinion. It's just how I look at it, how I view it. And knowing that, for the purpose of this conversation, is really important, so that when we get to connecting it to mental fitness, that connection is going to make more sense, I believe. So first, no, I'm not a therapist or a psychologist or a doctor or any of those things, which means that when I'm talking about mental health, I'm talking about it purely from my personal experience in my own life and my personal mental health as I see it, and also from my experience of having worked with other people and what they would consider their mental health issues for a good 30 years. So I have a reasonable amount of experience in working with these things, but not from the point of view of a diagnostic of, oh, so what is your mental health problem? I generally don't go into that, although often people coming to me are happy to share with me, oh, I got this problem or that problem, or I'm diagnosed with this thing, I'm diagnosed with that thing. Mental health for me is, unfortunately, and I think it's the term mental health, I think originally had a very different kind of meaning, or used very differently to the way it is used today. And because of that, I am in generally removing myself from that term. And I'm going to use it a lot here today in this episode. But I think you'll understand when you get what that means to me. So from my viewpoint, mental health, the term mental health, is no longer about good health. It's no longer about having good mental health. It's no longer a positive term. In general today, when people use the term mental health, it is used in relation to mental health problems. Mental health, particularly we're talking about business, and in the world of business, and in the world of leadership. We're going to deal with, as leaders, with people, and some of those people are going to have so-called mental health problems or mental health issues, or have been diagnosed with some mental health problem. And then how do we deal with that when we are not therapists, when we are not doctors? We are just business people who wants to run a business and have a great team and produce some amazing services and products. However, if we are not dealing with that, which I think unfortunately in many cases we are not, because we are not therapists, we are not doctors, how are we dealing with that? And I want to give you some pointers here today for that. But before going further with that, let's just stick with that term mental fitness. So again, the reason that I don't like that term any longer is because it has become a term describing something negative, something that's a problem, rather than a solution. It's no longer like, oh, let's focus on our mental health so we can be really mentally healthy and be really happy and fulfilled, confident, and all those kind of things. That in generally is not what goes along with that term. Now, because of that, I think we have then created an additional problem on top of whatever mental health issues we have, that now we have this term that is also a problem from my viewpoint because it is not offering a solution. And I will come to what I believe the solution is in a moment. Now, sticking with mental health, just for a little bit longer, bear with me. It seems to have become more of a diagnostic tool or diagnostic thing. So we now have, I don't even know the number. You can put it in the comments if you like, if you have done your research or go and ask AI. How many mental health diagnostics or terms of mental health problems can you be diagnosed for today? And my guess is the number is high. Yeah. And most of those, when people come to me say, oh, I have this issue or this issue, I have no idea what they're talking about. I need to get into explain. So what are you actually experiencing? How is this affecting your life? Oh, I can't sleep, or I get angry easily, or I procrastinate all the time. So, okay, I understand that. But the fancy term you have, I don't understand that. So I don't want to get into like a really kind of dark area of what is the value and all of this, but there certainly is, like with all these different diagnoses or whatever the language is, they seem to also have a medication to solve it. And I'm not going to say that that's good or bad, obviously. Everything has a place at the right time, at the right moment. So I think we as a culture and the people working in that field, whether they are whatever they are, doctors or psychiatrists and so on, it's useful to have all these terms and be able to diagnose that and then prescribe something that might be able to help with that. The problem for me that comes with that, I mean, there are a number of problems. One of them I'm not going to talk into because I'll get into trouble if I do, but the other one I will talk into because that's the one I know and understand. And that is the way our human beingness and our human mind operates. We can call it ego, we can give it all kinds of labels that we want. But here's the reality. These different terms, our egos love them. They love having something that it can identify with and go out and say, I am. I am a husband. I am a wife. I am a procrastinator. I am an alcoholic. I am addicted to this and that. I have this syndrome. I have this syndrome. I can't concentrate for long periods of time because I have this issue and I have this issue. I don't know if you get that. That like the mind itself, not you as a person, not me as a person, but our minds, our egos, love attaching itself to these and identifying with it as that's who I am. I am a business owner. I am, and then these different things. And I have sometimes people coming to me with three or four different things they're being diagnosed with. And you can see their head is spinning and they're like, I can't, like, I can't deal with that. But at the same time, they are very, very ready, or their ego, should I say, is very ready to talk about this. So, with that understanding that a part of us likes those labels, I guess this is why they've become so popular, along with that it can provide some solutions, whether that is through medication or through therapy. And all of that is outside my scope. I'm not going to go in and judge any of that because there are times where all of that absolutely works for people and fantastic. When people come to me for some help and they have some of those issues, they typically come to me because they have tried a number of things and it is not working. And they're looking for other ways that might work. And then they might get referred to me and say, well, Mikhail, he might be able to help you have a chat with him. So with that, I want to then move away from the mental health um, kind of perspective and then move into what is a solution to our mental health problems. And you may say, well, there can't be a solution. But there have to be a different solution to all of these. Like this one requires this kind of approach, or this one requires this kind of medication, and so on. And that's where we might end up disagreeing. Because for me, the label itself of what our mental health problem is, at some level, is actually irrelevant. The key issue is that something is happening in our being and in most of this inside our mind that is causing a suffering, whether it is like anxiety or worry or losing focus all the time. I can't concentrate on things, which in generally is not good. Particularly if you're in business, it's not a good thing. All of those have one thing in common, and that is that they are fueled by the mind. Which, if that's true, and I know some of them also have connections to physiology and that, absolutely. But the vast majority of them are primarily connected to what is happening inside our minds, inside our brain. How we interpret things that are happening around us, how we relate to the things that are happening around us. So if that's the case, then that means that if we can find something that can help us deal with our mind so that we become more mindful and can be more present and meeting those inner mental challenges, then that obviously is going to help with our mental health, no matter what the mental health problem is. I think that makes sense. Let me know in the comments if it doesn't. Let me know where I'm going off track here. So, if what I'm putting forward here has at least some validity to it, which I obviously believe it has, that means that we can then start solving a lot of these issues, at least to some degree or entirely, by not focusing on the issue or the diagnosis, but by focusing on our own minds and how it is relating to what is happening. Before going into that, there's one more thing I want to share. And I know some of you are going to laugh and agree, and other people are going to say, no, 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 that's bullshit. Again, let me know in the comments. I'm going to claim that if you are not already enlightened, which you aren't because you wouldn't be listening to this if you were, and I'm not because I wouldn't be sitting here saying what I'm saying if I were. If you're not enlightened, then you have a mental health issue. It may not be one that is wrecking your life and is causing havoc and that you need medications for. But if you get frustrated with people in the traffic, you have got a mental health problem. If you get irritated with customers or staff or the boss, you have got a mental health issue. If your wife or husband pisses you off, you have got a mental health issue. So whenever we are in any of these states of discomfort, dis-ease, suffering, whether it's big or small, to me, that is a mental health problem because our mental health in that moment is not in a good health situation. When we're in a good mental health, there is peace. There's inner peace, there's calm, there's focus, there's joy, there's fulfillment, there's all those wonderful things, and there's happiness. Even though the outer world, there might be some level of chaos in that. So with that said, we all have mental health problems, whether they're diagnosed or not. And you can just look for yourself at this moment in time and go, no, so what are my main ones? You know, what is it that where I lose the plot? Is it out in the traffic, or is it at work, or is it at home, or is it the kids that drives me crazy? And I end up raising my voice and then go, oh, probably shouldn't have done that. So with all of that, we now come to the place of, so what is the solution to all these mental health issues that we have? And I know if you've been with me before, even if just one episode with me, and having looked at the title of this podcast, then you know what the answer is going to be. But I'm going to say it anyway. Mental fitness is a solution to almost all mental health problems. The more mentally fit you are, the better equipped you are to deal with the shit when the shit hits the fan, whether it's big or whether it's small. So for me, the reason I have become so passionate about mental fitness through this podcast for over a year now is for me that term, just like physical fitness. If we want to be physically fit, we have to actually work at it. We have to do something. We have to eat the right kind of stuff, food, and we have to do some kind of movement with the body. Otherwise, we can't be physically fit. Everybody knows that. But mental fitness is a relatively new term. At least many people I talk to, they go, oh, I've never heard that term before, but I like it. So like me, when it came into my life a few years ago, like, oh, that's interesting. And then it moved from interesting to, wow, this is an absolutely wonderful and amazing term because it is a solution to the problems that we have inside our own being. So most people that I work with actually have issues with sleeping and getting enough sleep and proper sleep, waking up too early and not being able to get to sleep. I go, so what is so what is happening when you're lying and you can't sleep? Oh, my mind is going crazy. I can't stop it. It's just going. Of course, if you can't sleep, it is because your mind is too active, or it is because your body just doesn't need to sleep. Sometimes I can't sleep, and then I check in. Is that because my body doesn't need to sleep? And in most cases, that's the answer. No, just need. Then I just get up, or I lie there and meditate, or I get up and I do something. And then when the body goes, okay, it's time to go back to bed, I'll go back to bed and I'll fall asleep typically within a minute or two. So issues like that, including everything else that you will be experiencing in business, where one, you have at one level to deal with your own mental health issues, whatever they are, getting really upset when your team is not performing, or losing it when you might lose a client and you're like it just makes your head spin for a few days and you feel awful. Hmm. Or whether it is in terms of leading other people that have mental health issues, which will be everybody you're leading will have some kind of mental health issues. And on some days, they can be really bad, and other days, not so bad. But again, there's two things that you can do as an individual. One, you can work on your mental fitness when the going is good, not when you're in the middle of a crisis. But when the going is good, that's where you practice. It's like you don't go and exercise full out at the gym if you're sick. If you're sick, you rest and then you go to the gym when you come out the other side. So here, when you're in a deep mental health kind of situation, it's not the time to grow your mental fitness. Like you do that when you're good. And of course, the problem with that is that when we're feeling good, we go, oh, I don't need to grow mental fitness. I feel good. Yeah, everything is fine. Mm. No, like that is a time to actually exercise. Physical exercise, mental fitness exercises. So two places to focus here for you. One is your own mental fitness. Grow it wherever and whenever you can. And I got plenty of things in previous podcast episodes talking about how to do that. The last one was that one about meditation snacking. Meditation snacking. Go and watch that one. There are so many gyms in there around that. Or if you want something more specific to you, just get in touch. We'll just have a quick chat, whether over the phone or on a Zoom call, and I can point you to some specific exercises that will be more appropriate for your particular situation. Now, the second thing that you can do as a leader, and whether that's a leader in a business or leader as a parent or any other situation, is then using mental fitness in the sense of helping other people grow their mental fitness. And again, there are many different ways of doing that. When you're having business meetings, when you're just taking that moment at the beginning of the meeting instead of rushing, oh, it's time is there, we've got short time, we've got all these things to do, and then it goes, and you can just go, hey, thank you guys, thank you everyone for being here today for this meeting. Let's just take a breath and then let's just feel our ass on the seat if we're sitting, or you just notice your breathing, or right. There's so many different things you can do. Um, but things that allows the mind to just slow down. Yeah. Not to become slow, but to become present. And the more present everybody in the room is, including you as a leader, the better results you're gonna get. It's that simple. So two places: grow your own mental fitness, help other people grow it. And that, of course, includes if you're a leader as a parent, help your children to grow their mental fitness. I can't think of anything better that we can do as parents because that is what's going to allow them to deal with the mental challenges that they will have, and they will have them, whether they're diagnosed with them or not. They will have them, and the better their mental fitness is, the better equipped they are to deal with life and the challenges that life always throws at us. So let me just finish with an example from my own life, a personal story. And for those of you who might have listened to a lot of these episodes, you might have heard parts of it before. So for me, I went through 20 something years ago, a patch of severe depression. And I wasn't depressed as a young man in my 30s, but I definitely wasn't a happy dude. And I really lacked confidence almost the whole way through, particularly as a teenager and a young adult. And that definitely, it was tough. Um, hard to, yeah, hard to be in that space and not having the confidence to do a lot of things I wanted to do. So in a sense, the foundation for that to later turn into full-on depression was definitely there and was building. And when I came here to New Zealand 30 something years ago, I wasn't depressed at all. But there was something sitting underneath. I had already spent many years in working on my mental fitness, even though I didn't know the term at the time, but growing my awareness of myself and doing courses and learning meditation and all of those wonderful things. But at some point, I said probably good 20 years ago, it all kind of culminated. The pressure for me just got overwhelming. And at this time, young family, three young children, my business that I ran at that moment in time was really struggling. I was struggling, and things were kind of falling apart. And I went into initially, it was like, no, I'm not depressed. And and then my wife said, do you think you're depressed? No, no, no. And then after, some time, it was like, actually, yes, I think I am. And and then a bunch of time later, it was like, yeah, I'm definitely depressed. And in this case, I didn't need to go to a professional to get diagnosed. I knew that I was depressed. And it came to a head when my wife came to me one day and said, Mikhail, you need to sort your shit out. Otherwise, you have got to leave. It is not fair on the children. And I think, and I'm really grateful to her for that, because I think that was what at that time gave me the kick up my ass to not just dabble in dealing with my depression using all those years of practice I already had, but to really double down, to really dive in, or as the saying goes, get down the rabbit hole, go down the rabbit hole. Which I've done a number of times, but always you kind of get stuck halfway down there and you have to come back out because you need to function in this world. But I came to a point where I went, I'm gonna go down that rabbit hole and I ain't gonna stop until I hit the bottom. So there was that commitment, and that's what I did. And I just went in, not just, it wasn't just, but I went into the pain. And not so much from the point of view of getting rid of it, but more from the point of view of fully experiencing what it was about. And uh, this didn't happen just in one moment where I'm going to do this tonight and then that'll be it. It was sort of a process of diving in and then waking up in the morning and having to go to work and then diving in and that. And one night, it's around midnight, and my wife next to me is fast asleep. The kids are fast asleep. And at that moment, it's like, okay, I'm gonna carry on again. I'm gonna dive in, and I'm not gonna stop tonight until I find the bottom of this rabbit hole, of this depression. And the further I got into it, the darker it got. It got to a place where it was so dark and so uncomfortable that I knew at that moment why people commit suicide. Because in that moment, if that had been an option for me, I was ready for that because nothing mattered. the wife, the children. In that moment, when you get to that level of darkness and go, oh, no, I'm going to get through this for the sake of the kids, none of that mattered at that level of depth of pain. And that I'm grateful for because I now understand what it is like to be in such a dark place where hope is gone. Using the reasonable level of mental fitness I had at the time. So I'm not recommending for anybody to do this on your own without any support, because you're going to need a really high level of mental fitness to be able to pull something off at this level of intensity. So I stuck with it. I went into it and I kept going into that. And then, like out of the blue, which is typically how these things happen, a transformation took place. And it happened like in a flash. I will say 1 or 2 seconds. Within that period, a couple of things happened. First, like the one I just shared, that I now had that clear experience and understanding of why people do things in that state, like, say, suicide. This the second insight I had in that moment was really mind-blowing. And again, it was so fast. And it was when I hit the bottom of the rabbit hole, was this incredible realization. There is no rabbit hole, and there never was. It is simply a fabrication that we have created, or we're not consciously doing this, but our mind has been conditioned into and created through years and years of experiences. And it was such an incredible realization. Like I knew this as theory because I had read enough, studied enough, gone to enough courses and meditation retreats and so on, and heard people saying that there is no rabbit hole. It is just in your mind. But I had to experience that myself. Um, so I feel very privileged that I had that experience in that moment of having that incredible realization. And then the next thing that happens, which was within 1 second, I was asleep. From not being able to sleep, asleep. And when I woke up the next day, there was no depression. And it hasn't come back ever since. It has knocked on the door a few times, but it has never entered back into my life. So that is at the ultimate level, the power of our own mind. At one level, it can create all these, all this suffering and all this pain inside of this anxiety, anger, frustrations, worry, and so on. And it also has the capacity to solve it, to move through it and out the other side. So I'm sharing that story, hopefully from the point of view as an inspiration, not for you to take the biggest kind of mental health problems you have and go, I'm not, no, tonight I'm going to dive into that and then it will all be sorted. That might be the case, but most likely it won't be, depending on your current level of mental fitness. So this now brings me back to where this is always bringing me back to. Grow any opportunity you can find to grow your mental fitness is going to help you going forward, regardless of who you are and what you do. Because you are going to come up against things that are going to affect you mentally. And the more you work on your mental fitness, it's just the better you're going to be at meeting that in a more positive way. So back to my definition of mental fitness, the ability to meet challenges, whether external or internal, in a positive way, without the stress, the worry, the anxiety, and so on. To finish today, just inviting you as per usual, reflect on what I've shared today, what you have experienced in this sharing. What was your biggest takeaway for you? And again, would love to hear it in the comments if that's appropriate for you. And as we always finish with, always look out for ways that you can grow your mental fitness in a conscious way. Till next time. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success. If you have stories of how mental fitness has benefited you that you are happy to share, go to my website, mikael.nz, click on podcast and fill in the guest application form. If you want direct support from me utilizing my 40 years of mental fitness learning and practice, email me at coach@mikael.nz or message me on LinkedIn. Any feedback, review, share, follow, like, or any other good stuff is, of course, appreciated. Thank you for listening to Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success podcast. I'm your host, Mikael Nielsen.